Lord, I'm so struck. I'm struck by your word, Father, because as they're singing that song, as we're singing it as a body, and first of all, how good and pleasant it is for the brethren to dwell in unity. There's unity in this place. Lord, we're of one body, one mind, one spirit in this place, one risen Christ. But I hear the characters of the Bible, all of them saying together that you're too good not to believe with what you did. And Moses, as he's at the Red Sea, he would say, look, God, you're too good not to believe. And he puts his staff down. And you open it up and it becomes a highway. And David, going into the valley of Elah, he would say, you're too good not to believe, as he takes down the uncircumcised Philistine. Esther, as she goes before the king, she goes inside, and she's brought there for such a time as this. And she would say, you're too good not to believe. And we go through the whole Bible. Gideon would say that. Ruth would say that. Peter would say that. Andrew would say that. Philip would say that. Matthew would say that. Mark would say that. Zacchaeus would say that. As he's in a tree, it's too good not to believe. I have to get out of the tree. Bartimaeus on the side of the road, he cries out with everything that's in him, because you're too good not to believe. Mary and Joseph believed, and you're too good not to believe. You are a good God. I thank you for the miracles, even that we're standing here. I'm struck by, and I'm thankful for what has happened even in America. We celebrated recently the Constitution of America, that here we are as a people, that we can worship freely, that you used us, you orchestrated things, and here we are worshiping you in this place where people around the world aren't afforded the same opportunity. I think of the epicenter of biblical prophecy, Israel, that you created a nation in 1948. And the prophetic time clock has been ticking ever since then. The apple of your eye, the people that you love, everything that has been happening. Lord, I'm thankful that we know the end from the beginning. We know how the story ends. We don't have to live in fear. We don't have to live with anxiety. We see and know who wins at the end. Lord, I pray for more miracles, Lord, that we would open our eyes, not that we would see these massive miracles. We'd open our eyes to the small miracles that you're performing. Lord, the miracles that you performed this past week, the miracles you're going to perform in our lives this week. Miracles, Lord, in bodies, miracles in marriages, miracles in relationships, miracles in finances, miracles in prodigal sons and daughters coming back to the kingdom of God. Oh, no, there is power, Father. There's power here today. Yes. Darkness has to flee. Oh, Spirit of the living God, have your way in our hearts here today. Have your way in our minds. We take the programs and all the ideas that we have about you and what you want to do and what we think you want to do, Lord. Lord, breathe on us afresh. Can you breathe on your people, Lord? Can you develop in us, a people in here, a spiritual resilience to move ahead in this day? Father, I ask that you would make us lights in the midst of this darkness, too, that is out there, that is pervasive. Use us, Father, in a new way in this day. We don't want the old wineskin. Father, we want the new wineskin, the new thing that you're doing, the new thing. Help us to stay in the river, Father. Help us to stay, Lord. And I'm thankful that Christianity is not a monument, it is a movement. And we are part of a great movement. It didn't end when denominations were started. It's still going, Lord. Lord, I love you. Jesus, we love you here in this place. I feel it, Lord. I think we all feel it in this house, Lord. It's all about you, Jesus. The name that is above all names. The name that everyone is going to bow to. Every tongue is going to profess. Every knee is going to bow. We thank you, Lord, for what you did for us. That you saw us through the centuries. You saw each of us. You laid down your life for your bride, for your church. A spotless church, a spotless bride. Oh, Lord, May it be for us. May it be. May we wake up out of our stupor. May we wake up to what is happening in the world around us and what you're calling us to. And how all of the people, the saints that have gone on before us, would give anything to live in this day, in this time, and this hour. And Lord, as the sons of Issachar said, they knew the times in which they lived. May we as a church know the times in which we live. Lord, you are coming soon. You are coming soon. May we not forget, you are coming back. And your feet are going to touch the Mount of Olives. Sit down. I keep going. I won't stop. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. I believe. Go ahead, Steve.
Wonder-working God. You're the wonder-working God. All the miracles we've seen. Too good to not believe. You're the wonder-working God. You heal because you love. All the miracles we've seen. Too good to not believe. Too good to not believe. Too good to not believe.
Shaking. Just breathing in and out. Him, his presence. The Spirit of Christ resides in us. Right? You feel that? You feel that? Power that's in you. The first song that you sang this morning. Power. These moments don't just come. I don't know if you feel it. These moments don't come around too often. This doesn't happen every week. We don't usually do this. I don't usually. We have a program. You know how much time we put into this service today? Really? You know how much time we put into this? God wants us to be closer to him. He wants us to be more intimate with him. He's drawing us near. He's coming. He wants that relationship with us. He wants us to take another step and another step and another step, but we are the most distracted people that have ever graced this planet before. We are so distracted, and you know what? The devil has done a great job at distracting us, and it's not our fault. It's so easy to get distracted in the midst of everything that's going on in our jobs and how busy we are with our kids and everything. It's so easy to get distracted and miss out on what's true and what's real and what's important. We're going to get into what we're supposed to get into here this morning. Let me tell you what we're doing here. See 4 chairs over here? Music team, you're good. You can just keep playing, Tommy. Tommy, I just love listening to you on the keyboard too. You're amazing. All of you. Guys on the guitar, you two on the guitars. This guy crushing it on the drums. The faithfulness, all of you. It's just incredible. Do I have notes? Oh, all right. I don't know where the clicker is. Did the podium get raptured? Did it get raptured? I need the clicker that's inside there. If anybody could possibly give that to me. Thanks, Dave. Well, here's what we're doing this morning. Thank you, guys. We're going to be bringing up a couple of people. We haven't had a panel in a good while, right? In talking about the times in which we live, but looking at it through a biblical lens, right? And the Bible is replete with examples of Jesus talking about that we are to watch, we are to be vigilant, we are to be sober. We are to know the times and the seasons. No one knows the hour and the day. And you have crazy Christians that are out there, right? We've seen Christians try to predict when the second coming is going to happen. Nobody knows that. But we can know the signs, and we can see them, and we can read them, and have an idea of a season of when things are happening. And we're up here today, and I have these gentlemen up here, and we have this panel, and we talk about geopolitical issues. We're going to be talking about economic issues. This stuff that, I'm sorry, and maybe I'm biased because we're the ones that are doing this. Churches don't do this, and I don't understand it. Did you know that almost 30% of the Bible is biblical prophecy, and no one talks about it? Hey, it's great. You want your best life now? All that stuff is great, but How about taking the totality of the Bible, all of the scripture, and talking about certain things and looking at the lens through which things are happening in the world around us? So we're going to look at the epicenter of everything, which is Jerusalem and Israel, his people, right? God's people. And we're going to have a conversation up here. Do I have my clicker yet? Oh, we're getting it back there? Okay. It's somewhere in the back of the podium. But so we're going to just have a conversation. And somebody once said, and I don't even know who to really attribute this to because I've heard different people say it, but I love it so much. Things aren't falling apart, they're falling in place. Did you get that? Things aren't falling apart in the world, they're falling into place. Exactly how God orchestrated them. Exactly how things are supposed to go. We are not supposed to live with a spirit of fear, right? Which a lot of people out in the world, I get it when they look at the economy and we see what's happening with inflation and, we on the verge of a global recession. Do the kids have to go? Kids, you can leave. Sorry, right? I'm all over the place. Kids, you can leave. Thank you. We love you. All right, unless you want to hear about all this stuff. Jay, you want to hear about geopolitical stuff that's happening, the economy, right? Inflation. No, you don't want to hear any of that? Okay. So, but it's important that we get into this conversation. So, guys, why don't you come up? And is this on here? No, it is not. So, wait, we have, and this is just the verse I want to start out with. And I could have put a lot of different verses up here. But in the Olivet Discourse, this is what Jesus said as these guys are coming up. Watch, therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour in which the Son of Man is coming. And I underline the word watch. Because Jesus tells us time and time again, watch. Listen, no, pay attention. And the church at large, big C, is not talking enough, in my estimation, about the coming of the Lord, the second coming of the Lord, and everything that's happening. He knows what's happening. He knows what he's doing. We can get caught up with looking at what Putin is doing over here, what's happening in China over here. Everything is falling into place. Guys, I'll stop because we want to hear more from you than we want to do from me. So, you excited to be up here? And I have to tell you, let me just say this first. Let me say this. In putting these together, it's actually like more work than like doing a sermon, right? Somebody that preaches. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun.
John and I turned it off now. We just talked about it before. Like, are you ready? Like, no. I mean, it's hard.
It's hard, but important, right? That we have these kinds of conversations in the church. And if you don't know who these individuals are, I'm going to go quick. Ted Petrone, somebody who he's actually related to us. He's Pastor Linda's brother, younger brother, right? The baby brother. He has done incredibly well in the business world, but I so respect his biblical knowledge. He's a man of God. He has a lot of great things to say. If you've heard him before, I love him up here. We have my brother, my dear friend, Naeem Walcott, who you see week after week after week. And this past week, when we're like talking for a while in our first conversation, I'm like, this guy is super sharp. You had like really profound things to say. And I'm like, I can't wait for people to hear, where you're coming from and what you bring to these guys are heavyweights. And this guy's my older brother, right? We'll forget that he tortured me for much of my existence.
Heavyweight in a different way.
Yeah. He's an attorney, right? He's very successful too in the business world. But you're somebody, John, that's always had a bent for biblical prophecy too. And I even if I wasn't your brother, right? Nothing to do with our family tie, but I respect you, right? As somebody that really knows the word. So these three guys are up here, and we're going to have a cool conversation. Here's where we want to start. We're going to start with Israel, right? Because at the end of the day, right, that's where our focus needs to be as Christians. Did you know, I read this during the week, I didn't say this in our conversation, more people have visited the Temple Mount this year than ever before in history. This year, in 2021, 2021. More people have visited the Temple Mount. And we are going to try to keep this simple. All right, and I may stop you guys at times if I think something that you're saying may be over our heads, maybe over my head, right? So we'll try to define things and make it as digestible as possible for everybody that's in here. At the end, if you have any questions, we would love to open it up to questions. Okay, you excited for this or no?
Yeah.
All right.
James, I just want to say something.
Go ahead.
Me and Ted said something real quick, and we just want to this is like
that.
the appetizer, set the table, or whatever you want to call it. But Ted and I were thinking, we just said before the service, we're like, how long has it been since we did one of these?
It's been
And
a
it's
while.
like, I don't know, what do you think, like 10 months? Something? It's been a while.
Almost a year, yeah.
So we just looked at each other and we said, you think anything's changed since the last time we did one of these? Like,
Yeah.
probably a lot, right? So I'm just saying, as setting the table, we do these once in a while, as James's point, not every church, a very small percentage of people will talk like this. Think back to what was going on, and now think back to all the things that have happened since then. A lot's going on. Things are moving super fast. So just use that as your thought, as your lens to think through of all the stuff we're talking about, because things just keep happening.
Yeah. All right, we're going to start with a really cool video. Again, the focus is going to be on Israel. These gentlemen are going to comment after we watch this 2.5-minute video. How many of you have followed the Red Heifers that were brought from Texas to Israel? Some of you may go, heifers, what? Like, what are you talking about? We will explain all that. Watch this video. We'll comment on it. Go ahead. Thanks, guys.
These are the red heifers that landed at Israel's Ben Gurion Airport. Rabbis believe the ashes of a red heifer are necessary for purifying priests to serve in a future temple. The heifers were discovered and brought to Israel with the help of the Bonei Israel Building Israel organization and its team leader, Byron Stinson. Rabbis from the Temple Mount Institute approached Stinson about the unique cattle.
They said, Byron, could you look in Texas and find us a red heifer? I wasn't expecting that, and it was shocking to me to think about it, but I know a lot of ranchers, and I know a little bit about cattle, being from Texas. And I always say yes to these Jewish rabbis because they're my friends, and I love them, and why not?
This began an in-depth process of finding the rare heifer that meets key stipulations found in the Bible.
The Bible gives us a clue as to the significance of the red heifers here in Numbers chapter 19, verse 1 and 2, where it says that God spoke to Moses and Aaron saying, "This is the ritual law that God has commanded, instruct the children of Israel to bring you a red cow without blemish, in which there is no defect, and on which no yoke has been laid." So it says that we're supposed to take a perfectly red cow with no white hairs or dark hairs at all, and a cow that no yoke has ever been on. So as a result, it's very, very rare to find a baby cow that is completely red.
The ashes of the red heifer would be used to purify water from the Gihon spring in the city of David. Just a few ashes could purify thousands of gallons of water. That water can be then purify priests from any contact with a dead body, so they can offer sacrifice in the temple.
Some Jews go every single day to a ritual bath, to a mikveh, in order to approach God in prayer in purity. However, it is not the same because we don't have the red heifer. Once we have the red heifer, we'll be completely pure and we'll be able to rebuild the temple.
The red heifer must also be 2 years old. These cattle are just around a year old and could qualify in just over a year.
So if they're able to make it without growing the white hairs or black hairs, I think with 5 of them we have a really good chance of that. Then they will be the first one in 2,000 years.
The Jewish sage Maimonides from the 12th century said throughout the first and second temples there were 9 red heifers. He said the 10th would signal the appearance of the Messiah. That's why many are excited about this arrival. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Pretty neat stuff, right? So we thought we had to play that video, but who wants to comment first on that? In terms maybe of the third temple, or just the relevance of this, what would you like to add to that? For somebody in here, maybe even that doesn't know anything, it's the first time they're being exposed to this. What do you guys say?
I'll start out with a U.S. perspective, right?
Okay.
Isn't it funny, interesting, that it's a Christian from the United States, okay, Texas, but it's United States, who is giving them the ability to have the red heifer? I can give you 4 or 5 books, countries in the last 300 or 400 years, you can track their rise and fall to their relationship to the state of Israel and the Jewish people. It's clear out there. Look at the UK. They were the ones that started with the Balfour Declaration. They said, go and become Israel, and then they turned their back on Israel. And from that time on in the 30s, they lost about 90% of their land without losing a war, right? And that's about the land they gave Israel was about 10% of what they should have, Right? So here's the United States, the greatest world power. At the peak of our power was what? Right after World War II. And we were the ones that said, we're the first ones to recognize Israel. So it's as you recognize God's chosen people that God blesses your country. I fully believe that.
I think it's important to remember through the lens that, God, everything moves through Israel. Everything's about Israel. Everything, it's his time clock. For all this stuff that's happening around the world, you have to always look back to what's happening in Israel. And so, I think it's good to also make the contrast, like, as Christians, our Jewish brothers and sisters are still our brothers and sisters, but you obviously see that they're in this different, a little bit of bondage to the law, right? And just to be clear, I mean, the purification thing, that's under their Judaism beliefs and everything. We obviously believe differently with Christ and through his blood that we can come to him boldly through the throne, right? I just think it's important to make that distinction because this is something they believe through the law, and this is what needs to happen in order for the third temple to come, which, if you keep following down the line and your prophecy a little bit, well, the importance of the temple is so that one day there's going to be this, abomination of desolation, they call it in the Bible, where there's going to be a person called the Antichrist who is supposed to stand up and desecrate the temple. And so that's believed to be a real thing, a physical, real person in a real temple doing a real thing. That's why it's important, and that's why it ties to biblical prophecy.
And John, go ahead.
No, just a quick aside, and if this is your first time hearing about stuff like this, you're seeing them read the Bible, basically talking about the red heifer, right? So this is prophecy that's being unfolded in front of our eyes. So we haven't done this in a while, but over the period of time that we've been doing it, I don't even know how many we've talked about that are literally written in the Bible. So, if you have these people that are saying, well, that's just, conspiracy theory. Well, it's not conspiracy theory because it was written 2,000 years ago, and now we're watching it happen right now. So a lot of what you're hearing also is, the reason why this is important is this is the church's response to what's going on in the world. It is, and not because of our opinion, it is written in the Word of God. And these are signs and things that are going on that we're supposed to be aware of. We're supposed to be educated and know of. It's not something to obsess over, but it's pivotal because it's in the Word. So that's all.
Good. And, the Temple Institute, right, they're ready to build the third temple. All the instruments and everything's ready to go.
They even have trained all the priests.
Yes.
So, I mean, they could and they say they can actually build it very quickly. So it literally, and to your point to start, James, the numbers of Jewish people going to the Temple Mount, it used to be like under 100, and this year it was like thousands. So, there's a movement in Israel to get back to the Temple Mount, and they're not just up there anymore. So here's a funny story. You guys all know we all went there, and we broke away from our tour to actually go to the Temple Mount when we were in Israel about 8 years ago, and it was.
Thought Mom was going to disown us.
It was tense. It was nerve-wracking, and they warned us. They said, when you're up here, I mean, they used to watch, and they being, the WAF, or the people in charge of the
Palestinians are in charge of it.
Yeah, and so they would watch you, and if they saw your mouth moving or something, they thought you were praying up there, it would be a big deal, and they would have kicked you off. Well, supposedly now, thousands of Jewish brothers and sisters are up there, and they are praying, praying, there's no more. The dam is broken, so that's happening. I mean, that's happened since we last spoke.
That's good.
I have one minor point to what you said before about Israel being the time clock. It's also the epicenter, because when you read north, south, east, and west, where's God talking about? Jerusalem is the center of that. It's north of Jerusalem or east. He doesn't say it all the time, but he goes, go to the west. It's always about Jerusalem at the center when God talks about directions.
And that leads me into, I wanted to hit next. We have, I don't even have my glasses. Yeah, it is. Wow. Wow, I'm getting old. No, I was at reading glasses. I don't have my distance glasses on. When you're younger and you look at people with their glasses and then you realize you're wow, you're at that point. That's you now. So we have Prime Minister Lapid, right? And he recently made comments. So Israel's Prime Minister talking about a two-state solution with the Israelis and the Palestinians. That was met with a lot of backlash from the Israeli people. Former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu wasn't in favor of that. So how do you guys see that? in the context of everything with biblical prophecy and what's happening there in the world. Guys, you alluded to that a little bit.
I mean,
Ted,
it goes
before.
to something
Ted's
said
point.
before. Ted
Yeah.
said before about dividing the land. I think I heard I think I heard a poll, James, that said only like 30% of Israelis were in favor of what Lapid actually said, the two-state solution. So it was.
That's
it's pretty-
actually even higher. Than
It's
I
higher than
thought.
you would
Yeah,
think,
it's
right?
higher
But
than I
there's
would
a
think.
younger generation too that
Right.
that I think is a significant block over there. But yeah, they're having another election coming up soon. Which if you follow Israeli politics, I think this is the 5th or something.
Coming up, fifth. Yeah, it's
right?
the fifth.
So, the bottom line is, again, let's just go back to what the Bible says, right? The Bible clearly says not to divide my land, So God made it very clear that, and if you do, things happen, right? And I don't know if I should say this or not, but
You're gonna go there. I know it. I can. I know
I'm
where
going
you're
to say it
going.
in a different
Yeah.
way, though. I'm going to say it in
Yeah.
a different way. You can go out and look, and I forgot the name of the book. If Keith, no, I don't remember. You remember the name of the book? Eye to Eye, is that what it's called? There's a book called Eye to Eye, and there's other stuff out there. You can go to Google and research it. There's some people that have done some things. If you watch, whenever a nation or somebody talks about or gets behind dividing God's land, there are consequences. And you've heard ministers out there say, this is the judgment. You remember Katrina? This is the judgment of God in New Orleans because they're so evil. I don't really go there. I don't think it's that. I will tell you this, though. God is a loving God. And if you looked all throughout the Bible, the Old Testament, and every time, right, things happen. They're losing wars, right? The Israelites are losing wars. Why are they losing wars? Because somebody did something in the camp that God said not to do. And so it's like, what happened? These are warnings. They're not judgment yet. It's warnings. Hey, turn around. What just happened in Florida, I'm going to say it, like, it's a warning. Because as soon as Lapid was in the UN saying it, we as a nation came out and said, yes, that's what we want you to see. We want a two-state solution, and we're the leaders. Like, we're responsible for what our leaders do. And so God's not saying, I judge you and you're condemned. He's saying, guys, wake up. You don't do this. Turn around. It's a call of love. It's not judgment. I think that's important.
That's good. Anybody want to comment on that or no? No? You good? All right. How about before we move on to maybe America, things that are happening and taking shape here, I wanted to highlight the relationship, and this was a recent Wall Street Journal article, and I'll just mention, I just threw it up there for people. I know it's kind of hard to see. It's a Wall Street Journal article talking about the strengthening ties and bonds between Russia, Putin, right, and you have Turkey, and you have Iran. So seeing these countries that are part of biblical prophecy, when you look at Ezekiel, and there's been a lot of debate, it's called the Gog and Magog War. When does this happen? When does all this stuff take shape? But what I thought in the article, I did this one quote, this is from the end of August, so it's a little over a month ago this article was written. So the two countries are forging tighter ties than ever, right? And both countries face continued international isolation, especially Russia, right, with everything going on with the Ukraine. In recent months, Russia and Iran have signed a multitude of agreements, especially in trade, oil and gas, and military cooperation. And with Israel, and we know that Iran wants to blow Israel off the map, and them developing nuclear proliferation. Very problematic, right? The Middle East is a powder keg. So you guys want to comment on any of that, anything that you see there, and what that means?
To me, it's like two mafia families shaking hands at a council meeting.
Are you Italian?
Sicilian, half Sicilian. And, they don't trust each other. They don't like each other. China really doesn't like Russia, what you hear in the papers, and this is just an alliance. Iran's got some real issues underneath besides the revolt of the women in Iran and the moving of Christianity. Yeah, right. They've got the whole world has a grain issue, but they've lost a lot of crops. Russia, believe it or not, there's only one country in the world that's both energy and food self-sufficient. That's us. There's nobody else like that. Russia was like that until they, dumped it all away. Because one of the reasons they want the Ukraine back is not only do they want that coast, they need the Black Sea for their Navy, but they also need that farmland. And because that farmland, if you listen to geologists around the world, the best farmland in the world is probably our farmland in between the Appalachians and the Rockies, right? That's the most fertile farmland. That Ukraine area is the second, probably just as good almost. They need that land, and so they're going to give grain away to curtail favor. And the drones are something that, I don't know where the Iranians got. They must have gotten them from the Chinese because, it's amazing. Russia can't build anything modern, right? Their weapons are like Stone Age stuff, and so they're stealing all the technology, and not as good as the Chinese did from the West. But they're using these drones, and so this is going to be a big deal coming up, these satellites. And listen, higher ground from the beginning of time has always won the war. The highest ground today is satellites. And that's where the war is going to take place before you get to a hot war.
That's a good point. Wow. Go ahead, Neem.
No, just a comment on the grain aspect. So the other part that's not in the article but is now being talked about is that Russia and China have now made a grain alliance. So winter 2021 is the worst harvest China's had for wheat. So they're now going to be reliant on trade with Russia in order to have grains going into this next year. So again, when you're talking about this kind of like geopolitical kind of setup, we see that the levers are very, very much intertwined. And then the other part that comes into play is that's happening over there, but we also know it affects us here. It's international, it's global trade. Ted, you know a little bit more on that end, but we all can relate to going to the supermarket. Groceries are more expensive. Everything is more expensive. So the global market impacts, even though we're getting our own stuff here, that global market impacts our immediate what we're dealing with out there. So right now the numbers like somewhere between 11 and 15% food price inflation.
Highest since the 1980s.
Yeah, or in the past less than a year.
Food, rent,
Right.
electricity, healthcare is like the highest like it's ever been. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
In England and Northern Europe now, the saying is heat or eat. That's their choices. They can't do both. Believe it or not, you can look it up. More people die of cold every year than heat. Thousands die of heat. Millions die of cold every year. You can look at the numbers. Now, I was going to say something, but
With Russia and energy,
That's
I
all
was
right.
going
I'll
to
give you
throw
a
something
second.
at
You can think. I'll give you a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because James said in the beginning that it's not falling apart; it's falling together. It's coming together. And it's funny, if you go in and you just keep reading your Bible and look at this stuff, God is literally driving together a lot of the
Yes, this
people,
alliance,
parties,
right.
nations, all the things that 5-10 years ago you would have said Turkey, right? Like there's certain nations you would have said there's no way this would never happen, and yet these alliances are being created. Everything is coming together like on a chessboard, and it's all happening. And just to give you more perspective, I mean, this whole thing in the news right now about this pipeline.
I was just going to
disaster.
bring it up.
So the pipeline is a really big deal. And if you don't know, there's been, in the last 10 years, a lot of recent discoveries in Israel. I mean, this small little country, right? Huge natural gas discoveries off the coast. All sorts of energy now that they're able to now produce. And they're building a pipeline actually through Egypt right now to provide gas to Europe. So just put two and two together, right? You see these other ones getting destroyed. Some people are saying they may not ever be able to be repaired. I don't know if that's true, but they got those two pipelines from Russia that now just cut them off from all this income. And they've got to do something about that. Israel on this other side is making progress into basically taking them over to be the provider to Europe. And the Bible talks about that, this king is going to one day literally do a 180 and turn towards Israel and set their sights on Israel for spoil because they see things. Yeah, there's a hook in the jaw that pulls them. So, when you got no alternatives and this guy Putin, he's running out of a lot of options in a lot of ways, you turn and you just say, at this point I could see it. I mean, what else does he have to lose?
What is he doing with gas? He's burning. Is it 1 million?
Remind
Go
me
ahead.
too. Just I was
Yeah. Go get to your point, and then I'll go. Yeah.
Saints, just remember one thing, and something we do very well here as a church, but energy and food is going to be very scarce at certain places around the world, almost everywhere. And who suffers the most? The poor. So we do a good job here of helping the poor. You know, I always describe our church as we kind of box. We fight over our weight class. We do better than we do for the numbers we have. And let's just try to remember them this winter, because it's going to be a very difficult winter. Whether you're the poor here in Suffolk County or you're the poor here in Southeast Asia, would tell you the truth, it's two very different types of poor. But we still need to remember them. Now, those two pipelines, they were not being used, right? The second one was never used. The first one was shut down because they had problems. So at that point, they weren't used. So here's my own theory. Russia did it. They did it themselves. This is a typical, here I go back to the mafia. I mean, we had cousins in Brooklyn. It was the mafia. We thought mafia-wise. So here's what I do. I blow up the pipeline and say, oh, this is terrorism. What am I saying to you? Guys, you have other pipelines. They're going to get terrorized too. So he's sending a message that didn't cost him any money. That's my own thinking. And I think because you've never seen anybody say, we think it's this, everybody's kind of sat down and was like, nobody's sure who it is. It was Putin.
Ted,
He's
the first
brilliant.
One, explain to me, the first one I thought that they were turning it off, they were maintaining it, but they could turn it off and on the first.
They did. The second one never got approved.
The second
right?
one never got used.
The first one they brought it down a bit, and then they said, oh, there's maintenance.
Right, but then they would turn it back on and off, I thought.
No, you always have to have it pressurized underwater. And it's concealed in cement, guys. It wasn't like a...
Yeah.
So this was everybody, every country says it was an act of sabotage. And, Putin was like, oh, this is a terrible thing. We know he did it.
But even
Like, who killed Michael's brother? Who killed Fredo? Fredo? Nobody ever said. You don't know who did it. Come on.
Where's Jimmy Hop?
to what you were saying, and also to what you're saying, so from our vantage point, right, and we see now, and we're just looking at the headlines here. So the wood, the gas, the pipelines, we're talking about food. So we understand that there are forces at work, right, that are basically agents of chaos. Now, if you take all of the people out of the equation, it looks like a little bit of a chess match. And who's playing the game? Well, the Lord is moving his pieces into place. So it's not something for us to be alarmed by, because we understand that there's going to be a reason why these things happen. And maybe it's food, maybe it's gas, maybe it's greed, power, whatever. But we see the mechanism going on. We can almost say, well, maybe it was this or maybe it was this, but clearly it was like, but that's why. That's your why that this is going on. Because, just the need has to be driven for the certain things to go on.
I want to say something. I think we have to remember something, and I'm speaking to myself first. The temptation with all this stuff is to build a little wall around yourself and just go inside and make sure we have enough, and I'm going to, hoard, and I'm going to do what I need to do to survive. I think that's the absolute wrong, opposite approach to what we should be doing as Christians. I know it's counterintuitive to say, wait, there's going to be less stuff and less of this, and what about my family? God's going to provide, and we're going to have to rely on him more than we probably think we do now. And you know what? That's what the world's going to do. We need to be different. We need, and as this church, I think Ted said it, we do this. But you know what? Challenge yourself to think beyond yourself. Think about your neighbor physically. I'm not even saying let's go, drop a track or preach or whatever. This is just hey, maybe you know somebody that needs something, and maybe you have something you can do. That's ministering the gospel too. And I think we need to do that. As things get worse, things get harder. I mean, people are talking about the pipeline and the supply, everything you hear about. We're not anywhere near the hard part yet. And so just resist the temptation to just me and nobody else.
Well,
John.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, John, that's really, really good in the sense that because we know what's coming, we have the ability to be a people that are prepared. And we're being prepared to just give it away. Yeah, come, I've got extra wood. Come, I've got extra food.
Yeah.
Come, there's warmth here. You know what I'm saying? Because we know what's coming, again, the Bible gives us the battle plan.
Yeah.
We can now be a people that can be prepared with and filling our lamps with oil, if you will, because we know what the need is coming.
Otherwise, what's different about us?
Exactly.
Right?
I think it's good to segue into really good what you're talking about. I think people now, getting to your point, I think you're seeing so many people looking to the government for answers. Right? You feel that, don't you see that? And this isn't a political statement. This isn't like a Democratic statement or Republican statement. It doesn't matter who's in the White House. People are looking to government leaders to solve these problems, and we're seeing problems that can't really be solved. That things are getting, go ahead, you want to jump in on that? No, I got you. Go ahead.
You know, we have a Christian worldview. Who said we know the Bible? We know how it ends. We know how it beginning.
Right.
So it's not. We shouldn't be disappointed when unregenerated man, unsaved man, looks to other men to save them. Right? We know. Like I was in Europe in January. We had a lot of people in Greece at a meeting, and me and one other person said, "Putin's going in. He's going in. Oh no, you Americans, you're always thinking about war." I was like, "Guys, you don't get it." And I didn't bring it up at the meeting, but my thought process was, if you don't have a Christian worldview, go back to Chuck Colson's book, How Shall We Now Live? You understand
Who's Chuck
what's
Colson
going
if
to
somebody doesn't know who that is?
Chuck Colson was a aide to President Nixon, who got caught up in Watergate, went to jail for something about 1/10 of what some of these politicians do today. But anyway, he had a huge conversion in jail, and he started prison fellowship. And he did that for 20 years, and he was that was a great ministry. It still is a great ministry. He was a real. I happened to have not a personal dinner, but Steele and I sat at his table one night.
He had a real conversion, and it became
what
amazing.
a man. Anyway, the people who don't have a Christian worldview think man is basically good. So let's go to the government. They'll help us. We understand.
Thank you.
Unregenerated man is apt to go to war. Jordan Peterson, everybody know Jordan Peterson? He says, he says, if you don't think you could be a guard in a Nazi concentration camp, then you probably could be. Because you look at those guys' history before that, they were normal fathers, they were good people. Somehow they took steps
Don't get
down
me
the road
going because
that they never thought they'd be there. And that's the people in the world. They don't get the Christian message. They don't understand that they're disconnected. There's original sin. We see that picture. So we have to see, oh, it's no big deal to us. We not that, I'm sorry, but the people, but we it's not unexpected.
Yeah.
We're going, things are falling into place because they're falling out of place to the other people.
Yeah. Well, get to your point too. And hey, listen, from a sociological, psychological perspective, like the Milgram experiment, like things have been proven to show average person things that you're put in a situation. I would never do what the Nazi officials did, right? I would never obey authority. And time, I do it to my own kids in a high school classroom. I have fun. I play games. I do like that kind of thing. So yeah, you're right. Good point.
I think, in our previous discussions before this, I mean, we talked about, there's a tendency, idols, we're idol factories, right? What they say, our hearts are idol factories. We're always looking for something else to replace God, right? And I think in this country, what I've seen is, and even in my own life, the big idol, I think, for all Americans, at least probably beyond America, but it's comfort and safety. It's what do I need comfort and safety. As long as I have that, everything else is okay. And if you look when you look through your life and your world through that lens, I just want to be safe, I just want to be comfortable, you look to the government for that. And I thought of this morning. I said, because everybody in this room probably can remember, there's certain dates in our history you can say, the JFK, that's it, whatever. A lot of us remember 9/11, right? A lot of us remember that. Do you remember 9/10? 9/10/01, like the day before? Like, think about how much your worldview changed in one day. And by 9/12, all you cared about was, we got to be safe. We got to be, what's going on here? Like, Bush, we got to do something. Like, what's going on? Go get the bad guys and make us safe again. Like, I remember that vividly, and I think you guys do too. And just remember that. Like, it's not the government that's going to save us. There's a lot of people out there pitching, we can do this, we can help you. And it's funny, we're talking about things lining up. The Bible talks about a one-world government at some point. You can kind of see, like, the answer from the world is going to be, we can fix this. We got the answer. The answer is, just let us take control of everything. We can do this for you. And that's going to be a real temptation for a lot of us if you don't know what to look for.
Well, the other
That's
part,
good.
just to tangent that, and maybe it's tangents to your next thing,
Move
is
into it,
well, is just this understanding that we don't. The Christian worldview is that we're under authority, right? We're living under grace. We understand that this was purchased with Christ's blood for me to live this way. Once you escape that, what you're seeing in the world now is just this overall, across the board, a little bit of Peterson as well, bucking of authority. Men aren't authorities, the government is authority, this party is an authority, that's not an authority, who are you to tell me what to do? And then what's coming out of that kind of anti-authority kind of thing is this victim mentality, that now we have to protect ourselves from each other. So we're seeing it in speech. You have to say this, the gender pronouns, and I'm not going to get too deep into that, but you're just seeing where this other authority is showing up. Save me from pain, save me from this, save me from that. save me from dealing with myself or having to be accountable. And so I think the world is moving more and more in that trajectory. And we're seeing that, oh, it'll be the government, but we're going to fight over who it is that's going to do it. But we're still saying the same thing. You know, give me, give me, give me, give me. So,
Yeah.
anyway.
Is there anything you guys want to say? Here's a recent article, and this is from Bloomberg, about many are forecasting, prognosticating, economists, everybody out there, that the economy is only going to get worse, and that a looming recession, right, that it's on the horizon, that we're going to experience this. Is there anything you want to talk to just about the economic picture that we see with inflation, how it's run rampant? Very different than we saw in the Carter administration in the late 70s and the early 80s, given the national debt of the country. Don't get too lost in the weeds. Because you could,
I'll start.
yeah.
I'll
And we
do
want
a
to
high
keep this
level, and then
simple.
you can come in
We want to
behind
keep
me.
this simple, but again, looking to the government. And
Well-
again, having a biblical perspective, what we're seeing, man trying to solve problems. You look at the U.S. dollar, the pound against the U.S.
Right.
dollar. You look at the euro,
Right.
the strength of the dollar. So keep it simple.
Yeah.
That a fifth grader
yeah.
would understand.
So-
Because our conversations outside of this can be different, but let's keep it
There
really
are
simple.
certain
What do you got?
rules in life that you just know are going to happen, right? You know, if you trip and you lose your balance, you're going to hit the ground because gravity is going to be there, right? And there are certain, I would say, similar things that happen in economics. And so certain principles of just, printing a lot of money increases that amount of money, and there's a lot of it out there, and that drives things in behaviors, demand, what we want, right? And it makes prices change. So all that stuff is affecting. And I'll just say it, and Ted's going to go deeper on this, but in 2008, everybody remembers 2008, right? I mean, I know some of you guys in banking, there's a couple people in here that know a little bit about banking, a little more than I do. But I was living with that too a little bit, and I remember literally walking out every day, picking up my Wall Street Journal off the driveway, and I literally didn't know if the whole thing was coming down every day. I was waiting for open the paper one day and be like, wow, the whole thing just collapsed. Now what do we do? I mean, and all I say to that is what's coming, I think, is worse than what we saw there. Only because my point earlier is we were kicking the can down the road. We don't want a lot of pain. Here we go again. Keep us comfortable. Well, there's consequences to some of our last generations, the last decades. We've made decisions economically that eventually the consequences have to be dealt with. We can keep kicking it down the road. We can keep pushing it away, and not on my watch, maybe the next generation.
Right.
Well, we're kind of running out of runway, and now it's the time to start paying the price for some decisions we've made, and I think we're getting to that point. Ted, you want to
Ted, keep it simple.
take it away?
Sum it up in a minute. Good luck. I'm kidding.
If you think you're in a recession, you're already in a recession, right? Because you've stopped spending. And the consumer is 67% of our economy. And once we stop spending and stop buying, the housing market's completely collapsed. I'm not in prices yet, right? First volume goes, then price goes. That's as deep as I'll get, right? Volume stops before people start panicking and selling. But I would say, again, we are blessed because it looks to me that if there's a worldwide recession, maybe, Europe's going to have the worst of it because their prices are too high. Everything's against them. China has been for years working with this sort of capitalist controlled by the communists, and it seems to be now not working anymore. They've also reached their peak in terms of their workforce. Their workforce actually going down. Their population's actually going down, believe it or not. And we have not a population explosion problem in this world. If you listen to Elon Musk, 50 years from now, if we're here, there won't be enough people in the world to. Anyway, I'm getting caught in the weeds. But I think in the States, trying to separate this from is this the last days or not? My own opinion is the Fed has wrecked this. I was talking to John yesterday, John Canis, and he was setting me straight on a few things. And I just think we've played it completely wrong because the Fed's very political. Everybody's political. The whole beltway. I'm not right or left. It doesn't matter. I don't understand is why is there a recession next year? A lot of the guys that I listen to are talking about it being worse next year. So I would just say buckle your belts because we may have a soft landing, but the odds are getting less and less each week as we go along because we haven't played our hand right from the beginning.
You did well.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's even a lot I want to say, but I'm not. I'm not going to get into it. Is there anything you wanted to comment on that quick before we move on?
The only thing I would add is USDA recently just gave $2 billion, is putting $2 billion into U.S. food. 1.5 billion of that is going to food pantries in the country. 1.5 billion right now. 500 million of that is going to be going to schools to help feed kids, but $1.5 billion this year is going into food pantries. That says a lot right there.
By the way, we are the OPEC of grains, right?
What does that mean? If somebody that doesn't know what that is,
we export much more than we need. We export everything. We've been so blessed in this country. We're selling grains at high prices. If we stopped shipping, like say Russia or China wanted to stop shipping, China imports like 100 million tons of soybeans every year. Most of it from us, from us. We really do bless the world. God has given us blessing. You know, we're exporting oil, we're energy, we're exporting foods, we're exporting technology, everything. I mean,
what do you think for the winter for us, for people here? I mean, we've tapped into our oil reserves,
where's Keith?
right?
Is Keith here?
Yeah, he's not here.
Keith's trying to get here. So some of you know Keith and I are involved in a bagel shop.
I'll tell them that. Yeah, that's good.
And when we bought the place in 19, eggs were $34 for a case of 100 cases. And they went up to 60, they went back down. Last week you got to bill $114 for eggs. You ladies know, whoever shops. Everything is going up. To me, you can't break inflation unless the Fed brings the interest rate above it to break it. Other people don't believe that. But if they're well behind the curve, and that's why people are like, you want to listen to somebody, not a Christian, but I think he's brilliant on this, Larry Summers. He was a Secretary of Treasury under Clinton. He's really negative. And when he's negative, and Jamie Dimon, the president of J.P. Morgan's negative, Wall Street and the Fed gets very negative.
No, that's good. Yeah, that's really good. I'm going to switch gears now, guys, all right? Is everybody doing all right? Do I have to get you up and stretch, or no, we're good? You staying with us? Anybody have any questions on anything you heard from there? You know what? No, because we could get carried. I need to focus on this quick. 10 more minutes. It's 11:20. I'm conscious of the time, right? I don't want to keep you here forever, but just a few more minutes. I wanted to hit this on the church really in America and really the world. This was the State of Theology 2022. This is Lifeway Research, right? A Christian organization. I don't know how well you can see this, but asking evangelical Christians, right, about Christian beliefs. Listen to some of this. This is this is recent, just came out. Almost 3 out of 4, 73%, agree with the claim that Jesus is the first and created being by God. Created by God, right? I mean, it's hard to fathom. Next, we have more than 58% believe that God accepts the worship of all religions, including Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. That does not mean that we don't love other people that worship in these other religions. But the Bible doesn't talk to this, right? Almost 44% say that Jesus was a great teacher, but he was not God. Are you kidding me? That's almost 1 out of 2 people. Almost 1 out of 2 Christians saying this. This is staggering. 29% agree with the statement, God learns and adapts to different circumstances. Only 43% disagreed. And then just briefly, this was Pew Research, also recent stuff. 63% of U.S. citizens identify as Christians. Why do I bring that up? That's 10% less than in 2011. In 2007, the number was close to 8 and 10, 78%. We see the number going down and down and down. In contrast, it is the group of nuns, atheists, agnostics, secular humanists, whatever, that grows from 16% in 2007. We're at 29% now. I could just go on with the numbers. Really crazy to see, and it's disheartening. As a pastor, it's worrisome for people that, don't know, and we get caught up, swept up in the tsunami of what the culture tells us about you need to be open and you need to be embracing people of other religions, and you can love other people, but you can't back off what the gospel of Jesus Christ says and is, and we won't do that as a church. Right. We're not going there. Go ahead. You were going to say
And
something.
I just want to make sure that I'm clear, because I think I am. This is a poll of actual Christians.
Christians.
Right?
Yes.
This isn't
it's
like
Christians.
a poll of the whole population, here's the poll, and then people are going to go vote. That's the poll.
Yes.
This is the people that are voting. This is the
Yes.
real people that come on Sunday and believe it. And that's because, saints, theology won't get you into heaven, but you need to know what's right and wrong when it comes to the message. And listen, there's a couple of Bible studies going on here. I hope there were 5. I wish there were 5 of them going on here. Because if we don't, C.S. Lewis, what was C.S. Lewis' famous line? Don't give me the patronizing nonsense of Jesus being a good moral teacher.
He
not
could, there
God.
wasn't. It's either you couldn't say he was the Son of God or he was a lunatic, and there was no other way. He said there's no middle ground.
He said he never left that option open
Yep.
to us. It wasn't
Yep.
his intent to.
Yes.
So it's baffling because that's telling me what's coming from the pulpit at these churches is different than what we're seeing here.
Yeah.
I mean, people want to be popular. People have
Yeah,
a
it's
free.
hard. I
They're
know,
afraid
it's
of man.
hard.
They're
Yeah.
afraid of. You know what
Right.
they're afraid of? We talked about it. You mentioned it in the
Yeah.
phone. They're afraid of the government because we're a religious organization, and they'll take away your religious
503C
exemption.
status,
So don't say
yeah.
anything that's going to
Your
go.
tax exempt status.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is coming.
I think it's good to underline,
yeah.
too, that I think there's a common misconception, I think Christians, non-Christians, whatever, but I think a lot of us walk around and think, well, if my belief is really sincere, then it's okay. On any subject, right? If I really believe that the sky is green, this is what the world we live in now, right? If I just believe this sincerely, you can't tell me it's not true, and you can't argue with me. And you're seeing it in these numbers because the fact that you can say, well, it doesn't really matter whatever religion it is. It's cool. It's just, God's good with all of that. No, I'm sorry, but there are certain things that are true and not true.
Yeah.
And just because you sincerely believe something that's not true, you jump off a building and you think you can fly, that's not going to end well.
I believe
You
I
know?
can fly.
Right. So
Yeah.
sincerity of belief does not,
Right.
in anything, it distracts you and it confuses you. I mean, it's good to believe what you believe, but when you get presented
Yeah.
other information or something
Right.
that doesn't line up with that, now it's decision time.
Yeah.
You have to kind of go through the fork in the road and it's this or this. It's not, well, I'm still going to hold on to this because I just really think it's true.
Right.
That doesn't
Now,
really
give
help
me
you.
the last comment, and then we're going to open it up to a couple of questions before we release you.
Oh, wow, last comment. Okay, so my comment is we know the Bible talks about there's going to be a one world religion. So when we see this convergence of numbers, it's not a surprise. It's not shocking at all, actually. It's what is going to be the predominant thing out there. We've seen the bishops and the rabbis and get together and the multifaceted religious houses, right? So what's interesting and what I think is really cool is, again, we kind of know the playbook. So that's the cautionary tale. And society itself is frogs in the water. And we're saying, wait, we're anchoring to the Bible and we're not standing in that water. You guys understand it's going to be boiling soon? And that's going to make us stand out even more. And I think one of the coolest things about a conversation like this is not only do we get the playbook, but we're being strengthened in doing it. So my best analogy, and this was happening when you were praying, I got this picture. It's like, ooh, I like that picture. So now I'm sharing it. CrossFit. I'm not telling anybody to do CrossFit. I'm simply saying I had a friend that did CrossFit, and I said, how are the workouts? And she's like, I'll send you one. So they sent me the workout. I'm like, oh, so this is what you guys do or whatever. And I had gone and I did a few classes. But you know the workout before you go in. And now you're saying, I'm going to do this workout so that I'm stronger when I come out. We already know what's coming. And we're signing up saying, all right, but we know the end result. I'm going to be healthier, stronger, more resilient. I'm going to have oil in my tank, food in my fridge. I'm going to have so much of him in my life. I'm going to make sure I'm grounded in the word that when I'm pricked, I'm giving Jesus away. I'm giving food away. I'm giving his life away. That's the battle plan that we're seeing here. And so this is a convergence of things that the Bible already told us is going to happen.
That's good.
So we need not be afraid.
That's good. Hey, listen, we could all say a lot more. Like you live in the world, like echoing, it's your truth. Whatever you believe is cool. Like that's your truth. You got your truth? Good. This is my truth. There's no absolute truth. All right. 10 minutes. Can you hold on for 10 minutes? And if you have to leave, I totally get it. Just try to leave quietly. It's almost 11:30. It's not too late, but I want to be sensitive to everybody in the room. Does anybody have any questions? Not comments. Let's see if you can listen to what I just asked. Because I'm a teacher, and it blows my mind when we do stuff. I'm being serious with you. If you have a question, go first. I'm being honest with you. You have a question, Jack? Go ahead. Fire away. Oh, yeah. You want mine? Here.
Hello? Is this
Yeah, we're
on?
good now. Yeah, you're good now.
All right. In our Tuesday night Bible study, we have touched on some of the topics that you've talked here, and they're extremely interesting. One of the aspects is that we can't find America in the Bible. A lot of nations in the end times are mentioned, leaders, and Gog, Magog, and all these here. But we can't find America. So my question is, basically I have two questions. One of them is that America, being founded on Christian principles and being the most powerful and blessed nation that's ever been on the face of the earth, why do you think America can't be found in the Bible when we start talking about the end times, coming up to Armageddon or whatever?
Well, I'll give you two. One, just because it's not in the Bible doesn't, to me,
It doesn't mean
it's not there. You don't find the word the Trinity. You don't find the word rapture. There's a lot of doctrines that we don't find that are there. My own personal belief is that something will happen here. I think it's the national debt. No one's talked about it. Talked about it yesterday. As interest rates go up, our debt goes up astronomically, and the day will come when we'll be really bankrupt. We are now. I'm not saying that's it, but something will happen, and the power to me shifts back to Europe as the world power. And that's what I think. I think it talks about the far lands in one of the Psalms, or that might be us, Ezekiel. And I think we were put in place for a time till it, at our strongest point, as I said before, till Harry Truman was a believer. They said, we will recognize in Israel. And we were there as the strong, bigger brother to help them grow up. And now they're all grown up, and they can take care of themselves. They don't need us anymore. So God said, U.S., you've done your job. And I think if the Founding Fathers came back, they'd like, hey, you guys lasted 250 years. Good for you. You guys did a great job. We didn't think we'd last 20. So anyway, that's what.
All right, what's your second question?
Okay, with that in mind, Ted, you mentioned that it's your opinion that something like economy could cause us to possibly fall out of that realm. We have discussed the possibility that being as this nation was founded on Christian principles, the fact that you have to go through some far-reaching and strange interpretations to find America in the Bible, could it just be that the rapture has taken place, that Christians in America are no longer here? Therefore, this nation could not possibly be as powerful and be blessed as it is now if there are no Christians.
Yeah, can you do me a favor? Can you get to your question? That was I didn't hear it as a question. I'm missing it then.
My answer
ahead.
is absolutely yes.
Well, yeah,
The-
Oh,
Definite
I
possibility.
I'll just say too, like, it's like possibilities, right? Yeah, of course that's a possibility.
Yeah.
I would contrast a little bit with maybe what Ted said. Like, I think it's a little unusual to think that the greatest nation that ever lived in the history of man is not. It's debatable where you would see that you would think with so many other nations called out, you would think you would see it and you don't, or you argue that maybe you see it here or there. So that's a little unusual, and I think you said it a couple times, Jack. A nation that was built on Christian principles. I mean, I'm sorry, but if you look around, I don't think you can say that anymore about this place. So, it's great that we were built on that, but there's a lot of things that would tell you we're not that country anymore. And if you look through the Old Testament and nations that, Solomon's reign for a while was the pinnacle of the Israel nation, and then it collapsed because they started being pulled away, and so things happen, and that could happen. I mean, that's happening right now, maybe. So
That's good. Anybody, a question?
I would just mention that's exactly my point. We were a Christian nation.
Yeah,
And now we're not there anymore.
gotcha.
And,
Thank you.
clearly a possibility. It's clearly
Gotcha.
so many Christians, such a small number. How
Yeah.
effective can we be
Thanks,
in
Jack.
that time?
Scotty, you have a question?
well.
Gets to it. Go. Neem,
You know, Pastor Linder said stuff when you speak to the prayer team, you say, we have to find out where God is at, where his mind is at. And if you're praying from a revival where he's talking judgment, you're talking against it. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but I'm saying my own personal opinion is I don't see I don't see an awakening here. I think we're in a Romans 1 decline. Sexual revolution, homosexual revolution, and the third, God's so loving that he lets you go in stages. And the third stage is he leads you over to a deranged mind.
Yeah.
And like
Depraved.
so hold on. Let me finish. That's where we are, and there's no turning back. It's for me, and this is not just for us. Every country has gone through this because that was written 2,000 years ago. So you go through those stages. Can we come back? Absolutely. I would love to come back. I'm selfish for my children and all my family members. You're my family here. That we'd have a better life. I don't see it getting better. I'm not saying we're going to be, Southeast Asia dirt poor, but I don't see the life getting better here. I think we've hit our peak.
Ted, it was good that you hit Romans 1 because for people that don't know, Paul talks about we've exchanged the truth of God for a lie. We've done that in, so many different ways in the culture that we live in. Go ahead. I know
No,
you wanna say
just
something.
comment to that. Our government is a reflection of our appetites. So if our appetites are for all these other things scattered about, this liberal type of looseness with our lives, and that's also very self-centered, well, guess what? Our leaders are the same way. So when does it change? When the people's appetite changes. And that's the hallmark for the Christian, that we would cultivate an appetite for Christ and the things that he loves as well.
How about one more question?
I just want to say one thing.
You wanted, yeah.
Andrew
Somebody
Breitbart.
raise a hand if you have a question.
Andrew
while we're
Breitbart
doing
started
that.
Breitbart News, and he made a great statement. He said,
Who did?
Andrew Breitbart.
Yeah,
Breitbart,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And his famous line is, politics is downstream from culture, right? Whatever happens in culture. He forgot as an atheist, he didn't have the right view because culture is downstream from the church, and the church hasn't been where it's supposed to be. And that's the reason the country's sleeting. It's not their fault, it's our fault as a church.
Anna, question.
Yes, as the influence of the United States wanes globally and Russia and China's influence increases, do you see any other nations rising up?
Outside of spiritually, I'd say India. India is the country of tomorrow, right? You know the joke about India, it's the country of tomorrow, and you ask me tomorrow, I'll say the same thing, it's the country of tomorrow. They're always on the verge of becoming very good and powerful.
I don't know, but I don't know to his question, though. You guys can, I don't know if I'd say Russia and China, their power is increasing in some ways. I mean, they're involved on the world stage, but China's economy, you referenced before, the housing market's going to be explosion there. But you're looking at Russia. They thought the war with Ukraine was going to be quick and swift, and it hasn't been.
Who
They have
was
so many issues.
the great runner from Jamaica who?
Bolt,
right?
Usain
They
Bolt.
said he was so fast the last 15 meters. They found out that his talent was he just didn't slow down as fast as everybody else because you can't keep that speed for 100 meters. That's us. We will slow down less than Russia and China will. They'll have it worse than we will going forward because we have the energy, we have the food.
Yeah, right.
We did have. We're eating off the capital of the Christian culture we created. As John said, eventually that runs dry.
And I think I'll just change perspective a little bit for you, Ivana, is that I think it's easy for us to look out to your question and say, well, who's the next one? Who's gonna? Because that's how it's always been, right? I don't think that's where we're going. I think you need to think more in terms of like alliances, groups, like, because there's a movement, there's a global movement to bring people together, nations together, you know.
World
because
Economic Forum.
the
And
World
everything,
Economic Forum and things are,
Yeah.
this, look, you talk about government, you know, what's going to happen? Well, how do we solve this? The government has an answer. It's not the answer I want, and it's not what I think is biblical, but their answer is, if we can get everybody on the same page, and we get everybody doing the same thing, saying the same thing, believing the same thing, we can fix all of these problems. We'll make your life
And that's the
great.
right and the left.
Everything.
It's not
like, there
saying
is no
we're not
more right
saying
and
the left like in
There is
power
no more
right
right and
now. We're
left.
saying the
It's-
right and the left.
It'll just be all gone. It's just we're just one big happy global family. So those nations you mentioned, Turkey, like everybody will be a part of it. The Middle Eastern nations, you know, who's got the economic strength and who's got the military, and it's going to all become one thing.
Right.
And if you're outside or you're standing in the way of that, you're the problem. And I
Yeah.
think as a Christian, we may be the problem.
All right, it's 11:40. One more question, if you have another one. If not, we're done here. Anybody else? Another question? Last call? No. Ted, you have a last comment? You look like you want to say something. Go ahead, do it. We're done. And you'll.
Here's my opinion of the people on the left, far left, and the far right. I think personally, some of them are closer to getting to the kingdom than the people who unsaved people who go to church every day and think they're safe, because religion makes you be safe. And so who did Jesus eat with? The prostitutes and the lawbreakers. And they said, who are you doing eating with those people? Because those people and Antifa and the neo-Nazis, they're saying there's something wrong with the system. It really stinks, right? And the rest of us like, well, I love the system. It's helping me. I'll just be safe. I'll go to church. I'll do good. These people, we need to pray for them, because they're like the hippies of the 60s, because they kind of, a lot of them say, well, those are the guys that like drop out, right? And then they became Christians because their first reaction was, this world stinks, right? And the whole system stinks. Well, somebody was opening their eyes along the way.
You know, I'm just going to leave you with one last comment from me. And it's funny because I think it happened to our worship this morning. I felt like, you know, the Lord kind of dropped this on me. I thought it was pretty cool. How many of us would always believe or think, or maybe growing up, we thought, boy, wouldn't it be cool to live in biblical times? Like, wouldn't that be cool? Because it made me think when James was rattling off Moses and you know, Esther and all these people, and we're like, man, wow, those people, they're such heroes of the faith, and man, it would have been awesome to live in. I wonder what I would have done in that situation. And well, welcome to the party, because you're living in biblical times. And you know what? With that comes great opportunity. And here's the weird thing that I've never thought of before, and I feel like God dropped this on me. And it's just a question. I'm not saying it's theologically sound. But, you know, we all live, and we have this Bible this is our compass, right? And we live with this Bible, and this is what we have right now. And if you believe in prophecy and you believe in what the Bible says about a millennium kingdom one day, and Christ is going to rule and reign from Jerusalem, right? What if the things that are happening now and the things that we're going through and the people that are going against, you know, the darkness and the things that you are standing for, what if maybe there's a Bible for the generation? There are going to be people that are mortal, unsaved people in the millennium. Maybe they're going to have a book. And maybe that book's going to have stories about people that are living right now. Like, who knows? But I'm just saying, that's the opportunity we have in front of us. Like, you're living biblical times right now. Don't waste the opportunity. We only get one shot, you know? So think beyond yourself, like I said. Think bigger picture. And that's what we're called to do as Christians, right? So.
Hey, thank you so much, guys. Did a great job. One line on your way out. Again, I'll just say it again. I want it in your brain. Things aren't falling apart. They're falling into place, right? Have a great week. Hope you enjoyed this. It's different. It's not a normal sermon where I get up and somebody's encouraging. This is encouraging. It's just in a different way. Have a great week.